Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Common Good Radio Show, brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I am Pastor John McLean, here with my guest co-host of the day, Mr. John Spur of Inspired Life Mortgage and Chiropractic, if technically.
Well, technically, I'm not a chiropractor, but yes, Inspired Life Mortgage.
Yeah, Inspired Life Mortgage, but certainly there is some connection between the Inspired Life Mortgage family and the Inspired Life Chiropractic family. And I certainly want to give Inspired Life Chiropractic some love because I love those people over there.
Oh, she's great, isn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing. Yep. And this week actually was my first chiropractic appointment with her, and I already am starting feeling better. Maybe a little bit's placebo, but I'm okay with that. So.
Well, she didn't make you look any better.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And we have, as always, we have an amazing show for you today. We have a plethora of guests. That's the big word of the day, plethora. Last week is vivacious, but this week it's plethora. But this would not be the Common Good Radio Show if I did not give grace to a very loving Father that's constantly blessing us, not only to be able to do a radio show and to be able to be surrounded by amazing people with positive energy, but we in this room we probably have at least half a dozen children among us, if not probably close to a dozen if we count all of my kids, and they're all a blessing. We have we all live very blessed lives. I know I follow at least two of our guests in this room on social media, and they just do amazing things, and none of that would be possible if it wasn't for a very loving God that guides us, that we allow to show us what the difference between right and wrong, and choose right over wrong. And I'm going to thank him today with the Lord's Prayer, as I usually would. It goes a little something like this: Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
So, lost my headphones here, but so that being said, we have Mr. Wesley Solar Source, who was actually my guest co-host last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago,
Yep.
Interviewing my current guest co-host. So the table has turned and the shoe is on the other person's foot.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's going to be fun.
For sure. So we have Mr. Wesley Source with Solar Source in the hot seat today. So thank you, brother, for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. It's always incredible. It's always good to see you.
Yeah. And I guess just real quick, how does it feel being there versus over there where John's sitting?
Good.
Yeah.
I like both seats. You
Yeah.
know, it's a fun time no matter what. I'm in the room with you.
But but how does it feel knowing that we're about to ask you the questions? You're the one who has to answer now.
I don't think that's a really big deal because I always have the answers.
Okay.
At least most of them.
I
If
just
they're
feel
right or wrong, it's we'll figure that out. But
that chair is just more comfortable.
Okay.
I like this mic better
Uh-huh.
and the view better, but
Yeah.
that chair is more
A
comfortable.
more comfortable chair. Yeah. Okay. Well, those are all really good assessments.
And by the way, the chairs are identical.
Yeah, for sure.
yours is a little bit more worn in, I think, though. So
yeah,
it's,
for sure. Yeah, that definitely, John's seat is super worn out. I could see that because the guest co-hosts or even the guests that go in it, where your seat sometimes, especially if you watch the other shows, sometimes people don't sit in it at all. So that's a little behind the scenes information for the listeners. But let's talk about some in front of the scenes information about Solar Source.
Yes.
Particularly, and it's really cool to have this conversation with two guys that regularly talk about how rising energy costs affects your industry and affects your clientele within that industry. So we'll start with you, and then we'll jump over to John, kind of get his take as well on how people that are considering, getting solar or getting into what you work on are affected by energy costs, and and what they can should consider when it comes to the rising energy costs?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the biggest things when you're talking about energy, the cost of energy rising is it's not just electricity. Yes, the utility is raising their rates by 12% this year. And in the last 12 months, it's a combination of more than 20%. So who knows what they're going to increase it to next year. And in addition to that, they're also increasing gas prices and everything else. So where can we save money? Well, the gas prices we have zero control over. And realistically, if you're going to stay with the utility, you don't have control over your cost of electricity either. And one of the ways that you can take back control of that is by going solar. And because you become your own utility, essentially. Whether you're buying the system or if leasing's a better option for you, it's just a conversation. It's not me coming out and saying, you should do this or you should do that. It's let's look at your situation and find out how we can best customize that for you.
One thing I like about solar, at least in the mortgage industry where I work, is we can use homes that have a proven track record of what their utility savings is and use that as a benefit towards them and allow them to qualify for more home because we know they don't have that electric bill anymore.
Nice. And I guess this is another kind of thing that you guys both talk about is the rising interest rates, particularly this past year or two. It's just like, it seems like every 6 months the Fed bumps things up. How is that affecting what you do, and what should people consider, and when it comes to the regularly the interest rates going up?
Well, it goes back to the now is the good time to go solar. It's not next month. It's not 2 weeks ago. Now is the best time because what's already happened. From last year to now, we've seen a huge increase in the interest rates, and it's the banks, and they're raising their interest rates. So if you're going for a loan to replace that monthly bill, which is still a good idea, and the interest rates are still low enough that it still makes sense, but I'm seeing some other companies at 10+%. That doesn't make sense at that point. And yes, you can refinance it, but who would want to do that? It's a big hassle to do for a solar system by itself. You could roll it into a mortgage, I believe.
You absolutely can roll it into a mortgage, but we're experiencing the same thing, right? Rates are getting to a point. Does it make sense to refinance your home from a lower rate to a higher rate to save on the power bill? There's a diminishing returns there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. Definitely, we'll be doing this again the third week of every month. So I look forward to continuing this conversation. But for those that are interested in utilizing your services and having you come out and give a consultation, what does that look like?
It's a phone call. I set you up and for an appointment, and it's a free, no obligation, no pressure appointment. It's really just a conversation. That's one of the best things about the company that I'm working with. So, and you can reach me at 520-223-1729. Again, the number is 520-223-1729.
Well, that's Wesley Solar Source with Solar Source. Thank you once again, brother, for joining me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This is a Common Good Radio Show brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I'm Pastor John McClain here with Mr. John Spur of Inspired Life Mortgage, not Inspired Life Chiropractic, even though they are connected. And we also want to especially thank our sponsors, Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. As I mentioned, Inspired Life Mortgage, Inspired Life Chiropractic and Wellness, Portable Practical Education Preparation, Solar Source, Gap Ministries, Better Business Bureau of Southern Arizona, C. Eaton Photography, Erica Art, The Marketing Corner, Action Print and Copy, Veteran Rescue Mission, and Home Community Services. We'll have all that and more after the break. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Common Good Radio Show brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I am Pastor John McClain, here with Mr. John Spur of Inspired Life Mortgage. And he just showed you last segment why I call him one of the experts, one of the utmost professionals in the industry, because we could be talking about anything and he can drop a little pearl around the mortgage industry and how you can kind of best invest your time and energy within it. So I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And I feel like I need to have you follow me around and introduce me to people all the time. Like you walk in the room, give me an introduction, and then I go from there.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm free for sure. Yeah, all I do is just this radio show and help veterans, go to their appointments. So like 5 or 6 hours of free time a day at least that I can just follow you around.
Yeah, you have as much free time as I do.
Yeah, good. Yeah, for sure. I went to your office the other day, yeah, just the other day, and like with your setup, everything, it looks like you're built to work for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I set that up for me and me only, and for me to work.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And again, thank you for being here. And speaking of men, I certainly look to for as a model, and one of the stoic men around me that seems to really have their stuff together and be one of the pillars within our community, whether they're an unsung hero or not. We got Mr. Russell True of the Wild White Stallion Ranch, and if you're not familiar with the White Stallion Ranch, definitely Google it, because it's one of the diamonds in the rough of Tucson. I'm not sure, and I'm sure Russell will tell us how many times they've kind of been mentioned throughout the editorials over the years, but it's a special place, and I'm so blessed, whether it's the guys in our program, whether it's partners that we work with, whether it's listeners that win a certificate to the place. We all are blessed by being part of it. So without bigging you up too much, bud, thank you for being here, Russell.
Oh, always my pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. So just to kind of give our listening audience an overview, those who haven't been there, which thankfully I have Diana Charbonnet in studio, who she said she has been there before, so maybe we'll have her speak a little bit to her experience about it. But tell our listeners a little bit about, what is the White Stallion Ranch and kind of the plethora of services that you guys provide out there.
Well, we still, we've been there a long time, and our family May 1st started our 58th year there, and the ranch goes back, of course, long before that. But we view ourselves very much as a traditional dude ranch, which means it's really about beautiful country, meals, riding, obviously, and the whole sort of Western destination vacation experience. To that, we wanted to broaden the pool, so to speak, and we added rock climbing, real rock climbing out on the mountain, largest private destination for that in the U.S. We do shooting, a variety of shooting. We had the Winchester 73, famous 1951 Jimmy Stewart movie shot there, and the Winchester 73 was the central feature of the story, and so we had replicas of that, so they can shoot that. They shoot 22s. We do black powder, which is not that typical, and we do archery. We do walking archery, which is sort of golf with a bow and arrow.
Interesting. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they move the target's heights in different ways.
Next time.
Yeah,
Next time,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. It's sort of the analogy with shooting a shotgun would be sporting clays, where you move around and shoot at different types of targets. It's very much the same concept. And we do the e-bikes, which are the great equalizer because they have some power. So if you're fit and don't want it, turn it off. And if you're like me, turn it up. And if you're worse off than me, turn it up a bit more.
I bet you're plenty fit.
I can walk and I can ride, but those bikes.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're the great equalizer. You just turn them to your need. And hiking, and of course we have entertainment every night. It's varied from the Critter Show to Western entertainment to cowboy singers, line dancing. So it's much like a resort in the sense there's loads to do, pool, tennis, hot tub, full spa, but still we're absolutely and never will be otherwise a traditional dude ranch.
I mean, it sounds like my childhood brought back to life. I mean, I just want to go out there and be a kid again, based on what you told me.
For sure. Yeah,
there is that.
And John being one of the one of the partners that I've invited to go out there. Hopefully he'll take me up on that invite real soon, because it's right up your alley, bud.
Yeah, no, I think I would really enjoy it.
Yeah.
He better.
Yeah, or else. So, and I'll turn it to Diana real quick. So you said you'd been out there. Tell me about your thoughts and your experiences out at White Stallion Ranch.
It's funny. People think of Arizona. I think they think of the movie City Slickers in their mind, and it's like that, but a very upgraded version where you actually can relax and be in style and have all of those activities that they mentioned without having to go to 6 different places and do them. And it's a beautiful location. Sits outside the city. It's just so wonderful. So make your way out there, especially if you're a Tucson resident and haven't been out there. I think it's one of our best locations in town. If you need to shoot or film something for a video, it's a great great location to shoot commercials or anything that you're really looking for that Arizona landscape. So you guys have done a wonderful job out there.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. And to that point, it's also a real good staycation place. You know, it's definitely a concept people talk about regularly. If you want to go on a staycation, we're better, 20, 25-minute drive, depending on where you're outside of town. And you can stay at, at a Dude Ranch resort. It's a very enjoyable experience. So, yeah, obviously I highly recommend it. On top of that, I'd say kind of like, through the years, you grew up in this place, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, through the years, it's developed, and it's wild as you explain it. There's so much to do. I couldn't even imagine coordinating it. I imagine you have an amazing staff that makes that possible. But were there things that you enjoyed as a kid at the ranch versus things that you enjoy now?
Well, I'm going to go home here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be part of our little ranch rodeo that we do every Wednesday. And so once I was old enough to do that, roping cows and riding a horse fast and doing that rodeo thing, my brother ended up a pro rodeo competitor, still is, even though he's too old and too small and he's broken up, but he just won't give up. But that's a totally different story.
My dad's the same way with lifting weights. He wants to be able to max out his bench press for some reason, and he's 65.
Yeah, well, so anyway, I enjoy that just as much probably as I did when I was little and doing that. And just the whole ranching experience with the cattle and getting out on a horseback and getting out on a horseback and being able to see country without having to watch where you step. You just kind of ride, you get a little elevation, no better way. And, I loved hiking as a kid. And I had this gigantic playground, and the culture, I'm 62. So when I was young, our parents, it was kind of laissez-faire parenting. And, as long as we came home at the end of the day, things worked out real well.
Yeah.
And in between, it was sort of on us. So I loved all that. And, our kids that come here to the ranch, they get a piece of that. And it's hard for us to describe, but the parents go away with a huge experience that their kids got some independence that they're not going to get at home or at any other vacation, very likely.
Yeah.
And they get that independence. I loved it, and so do their kids.
That's amazing. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Russell, for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you guys if they want to sign up and go to the ranch, check it out.
Well, of course, they can use the phone, and it's 888 WS Ranch, but everybody just goes to the internet, and that's whitestallion.com.
Nice.
www.whitestallion.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. That's Russell True at the White Stallion Ranch. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Common Good Radio Show, brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I am your grandma's favorite pastor, Pastor John McClain, here with your grandma's favorite mortgage broker, John Spur with Inspired Life Mortgage.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I would love to be everybody's grandmother's favorite mortgage broker.
Yeah.
Because when grandma tells you to do something,
You do it.
you do it.
That's it.
Exactly.
And because grandma knows better.
Grandma knows best.
Because grandma spent her time to research it, to look into it, ask around, ask the other grandmas to find out whether you're really a legitimate person. And if they did that, John Spur's a real dude.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a great grandmother in my life, and I was taller than her.
Interesting.
And when I made her mad, she'd stand on my feet and push me backwards.
Yeah. Grandma don't mess around.
Oh, no, they don't.
No. Yep. And to speak to that, we have Diana Charbonneau with Impact of Southern Arizona. What are your thoughts about Grandma?
I love my grandma.
Yeah. And if Grandma told you that you should trust John Spur's Inspired Life Mortgage, you'd listen to Grandma, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Grandma told me I should trust Impact of Southern Arizona. But for those out there that are listening that don't know what Impact of Southern Arizona, maybe even their grandmas don't even know, help fill them in. What is Impact of Southern Arizona?
Impact of Southern Arizona is really a one-stop shop of resources for people trying to move forward. So imagine if you have lost your job, you're laid off unexpectedly or your house burns down, experiencing something short term, you can come into our food bank, clothing bank, stretch your budgets, stabilize your family, basically get back on your feet. And we do a variety of different programs ranging from birth to youth to seniors, but essentially we're that one-stop shop trying to move people forward in many different ways.
Interesting.
How can local business owners here help you?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. We're keeping food on the table for thousands right now. So one of the big things is food drives. We give out additional food than just the USDA bags when you come into a food bank. So we have businesses actually sponsor items in that bag, run food drives for us. We're very thankful and blessed with the support we get from our local businesses.
You've been here, thankfully, kind of like behind the scenes. We were talking about like energy costs rising, interest rates rising. Like, I work in homeless services. The eviction moratorium lifted. A lot of people were affected by that. So, like, how have you seen these type of things affect the community that you serve?
Sure. Since June of last year in 2022, we have actually seen the number of people we're serving rise 40%. So we went from serving 500 families every month to over 750 families every month. And that's a much higher number. Everybody's being affected across the board. And so we're seeing an increase in services, an increase in need. As you know, we're in a housing crisis, so that's always a big piece of it. And so we're really just trying to get the word out that there are resources for people to go try to come and stretch your budgets by coming into the food bank, coming into the clothing bank, and then putting that money towards your gas. Even though it's skyrocketing, you can at least put a little more towards that. And we're really trying to stabilize people, and on the other side of that, move them into higher paying careers. A good portion of people here in Tucson only make $10,000 to $20,000 a year. And we're really working to break those generational cycles of poverty, moving them into higher paying careers and doing what we can.
Okay, well, me and John looked at each other lost.
I was just thinking of everything she was saying in the statistics and a lot of those things that even myself, I didn't know, and I feel like I'm well connected. And I sometimes feel like all of us can just do a better job to help organizations like yours. And so you caught me off guard when you looked across the table.
Well, it's just the thought that was coming to my mind, and I felt like we were sharing that thought, kind of like where there's so much to process. And it's just like, how, and I know in my field of work, a lot of people think that people just know where, the homeless people know where these services are, and they just don't want to get them. But most of my job is letting people know about these services. So I'm sure this is a similar dynamic that kind of you're working with. So, and how do you like help erode that stigma of getting these services, and then the thought of people already know about it, they're just not getting them?
Oh yeah, there's a huge stigma that only poor people come in to use our services is a big one. We're also here to help people that don't know where to turn for those services. If you lose your job, are you going to walk to your fridge and go, oh, here's my handy resource of all those nonprofits that people have been telling me about? No, that is part of our job, and we need to be marketing to the community better in that regard. But we also have an enormous amount of nonprofits in town. So, we're all doing what we can. And kind of to your point, if everyone just does a little, it adds up to a lot. And us at Impact, we're the food bank, clothing bank up in Catalina. So most people north of Ina and Oracle have never heard of us. But we serve the whole Copper Corridor, which is Oracle, Mammoth, San Manuel. And those are the forgotten places. And those are the people we serve because we haven't forgotten them. But the closest grocery store is an hour away from most of them. I grew up in Oracle, and I never even thought of that. Now as an adult, I see it. But yeah.
With the recent increase you've seen, how many of those people, it's like the first time they've had to ask for help? I would imagine a lot of people are now in a situation where they've never been needing help from an organization.
A majority, honestly, and that is the hard part. Most people come to Impact seeking food and have no idea that we can help them get into higher paying careers. And our receptionist and our team is trained to let them know, well, did you know that we have a clothing bank? As a parent now, I know how expensive children are, just clothes alone. And so that's a big place. And so we kind of walk them through, well, here's how we can help you, and here's how we can help you. But it's all about the dignity and respect and really giving that to them. And we have people come from as far as Sahuarita and South Tucson because of that. When you come into Impact, you are walking into any regular store or business that's there to help you. And I think that's what helps us. But it is hard. It's hard to ask for help and when you're in that situation.
For sure. So how can people get involved with Impact of Southern Arizona if they want to help?
Yeah, we could desperately use some volunteers over the summer. We lose a lot of our snowbirds, so if you have a couple of hours of your time in a week or even a month, we'd love to have you. Our volunteer hours usually run Monday through Friday in the work week, but we can also do group activities. As I mentioned earlier, food drives are a big part. We are distributing over 45,000 pounds of food every single month.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Even more in the holidays. So food drives are a really big part if you can run that. And then just helping us spread the word, especially to people who are in need. If you come across a friend, family, or client who you can't help, that's where we can help step in and even give them the other resources in town if it might not be us. We are all about collaborating. And so if you would like any of that info, you can find it on our website, www.impactsoaz.org, impactsoaz.org.
Well, thank you so much. That's Diana Charbonneau with Impact of Southern Arizona. Yeah, this is the Common Good Radio Show brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. If you haven't been to veteranrescuemission.org yet, please check it out. You can find more about the radio show as well as our litany of amazing partners that we are working with. And foundationally, the work that we do to locate and connect homeless veterans with housing. We'll catch you right after the break. That fourth segment always throws me off. That cool, smooth music. It just makes me want to relax. But this is the Common Good Radio Show brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I am Pastor John McLean of that very Veteran Rescue Mission, here with one of my buddies, definitely one of me and my wife's favorite couples, him and his wife, Dr. Rachel. His name is John Spur of the Inspired Life Mortgage. Him and his wife are called the Inspireds.
Yes, we did get nicknamed the Inspireds a long time ago.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Well,
You guys are super inspiring.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome, brother. And we have another really inspiring guy here in studio with me, someone who's, I want to feel like we've been friends for a while, but we're becoming like closer and closer friends, like through intentionality. And his name is Bob Call, and he is with Sabino Investment Management, and he also wrote the book Investment Strategies for Tortoises, because he's like, just take your time, take it easy. There's no hurry, and invest in your money and gain in the millions and billions that are in your future, right?
Right. Well, there are a lot of books out there about how to get rich quick, and so I was trying to discourage that. In my book, I've got 15 chapters. I cover a broader range of investment topics than most books. And so, if somebody reads my book, they should know what to do with their 401k plan. Because a lot of times people have 401k plans and they're not sure what to do, so they leave it in the money market. And then after a few years, they say, how come my investment account didn't increase in value? So it's to, I first published this book in 2017. And there might be some used copies available on Amazon, but people can download it directly from my website in a PDF format. And the website is sabinoim.com. And just click on the financial literacy tab and you'll find the book.
That's actually saying a lot, that you're giving that information away for free. You must be really good at what you do.
Well, I like to think so.
Interesting. So let's actually, I want to take a little step back and tell the listeners just what inspired you to write this book in the first place.
Well, my background is, I first became a CPA, decided to go back to grad school. I got an MBA in finance at UC Berkeley. So at the time, they taught efficient market theory. And, basically don't try to beat the market, just be very diversified and you'll do okay. And then later on, I studied neuro-linguistic programming. Well, one of the things they teach you in neuro-linguistic programming is if you want to be good at something, find out who's good and see what they do differently. And so I applied that idea to investment management. And I just started, I had an early interest when I was a child in the stock market. And
Mm.
I used to, I started looking at the LA Times and I noticed
Mhm.
the stock quotes and I started asking my mom about it.
Doesn't every kid?
And then my mom comes home from work one day and she's got a book from Merrill Lynch called How to Buy and Sell Stocks.
Uh-huh.
And she tosses at me and she goes, "Here, read this."
Mm.
And basically don't ask me any more questions.
Interesting.
And so I and that book taught some basics about how stocks and bonds work and how
Mm.
to place trades and that sort of thing, but it didn't really get into investment strategy
Mm.
and that sort of thing. So then I just started keeping a notebook on portfolio managers that I read about who had good records over a long period of time.
Mhm.
And I found some common things among them, and several of them mention Benjamin Graham, who was kind of the original value investor.
Mm.
He was Warren Buffett's professor at Columbia
Okay.
University, and that's why Warren Buffett went there for his MBA, because he'd read the book The Intelligent Investor,
Mm.
and so he wanted to learn more from Benjamin Graham.
I'm guessing you've read the book, The Intelligent Investor.
Right.
Okay.
And
very
Graham
good.
and Dodd Security Analysis and
Uh-huh.
lots of other books
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
For sure. And then, so walk us all the way up to what inspired, okay, let's put my information and my brain down on paper.
Yeah, part of it is I wanted my clients to have a better understanding of my investment approach and, what I looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd talk to clients about closed-end funds, because with closed-end funds, you can buy an investment portfolio
Mm-hmm.
at a discount to net asset value, a discount to current market prices.
Mm-hmm.
And I own one right now, the Dividend and Income Fund, that's trading at a 32% discount to net asset value.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty good bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I had explained it, I put articles on my website about closed-end funds. I'd find, even clients say, "Well, now what's a closed-end fund again?" That sort of thing. So part of the motivation was to get information out there about what I do in an efficient manner
Mm.
to prospects and clients. And so anyway, that's why I wrote the book.
So yeah, interesting. Easy enough. You're having meetings with your clients and they're like, "What does that mean?" And you're like, here, read this.
Yeah.
Read this and it'll help you out a little bit. Interesting. And then I guess just one last kind of questions on the production of the book. Like, how long did it take you to put it together?
It took me longer to write it than I expected. You've had that
Oh
experience, I
yeah,
think.
for sure.
So I think it took me almost a year to write it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and just the intentionality, making a little space and the time to do it.
And
Yeah.
so some chapters went well, and a lot of times I'd start writing a chapter and I'd think, I need to do more research on this topic, and
Mm-hmm.
so it got me it got me up to date on some of the more current research,
Mm-hmm.
on certain aspects of it.
And in the first chapter, you talk about overconfidence as a kind of a behavioral error that people have when they get into investing. Talk about that a little bit.
So the title of my first chapter is "Wishful Thinking is Not an Investment Strategy."
Okay.
So I think some people, I showed that to a friend of mine and she
Mhm.
just started laughing and she goes,
Interesting.
"Oh, that sounds like me." So anyway, on the section on overconfidence, I talk about this Washington Post poll. So 94% of Americans said they are above average in honesty, 89% are above average in common sense, 86% said they were above average in intelligence, and 79% are above average in looks.
Hmm.
So obviously there's a math problem there.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't even want to answer those questions on my own accord. So, so another part you talk about is holding out for top dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
And, years ago I met a top real estate agent in Orange County. He actually had 250 agents working for him at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I met him, he owned more apartment units in Orange County, California than anybody.
Mm.
And but so he talked to me about how he sold houses, and
Mm.
I had a very high closing rate. But he said, sellers, he goes, they love to hear that you're going to get them top dollar.
Mm.
And a lot of times I see people that own stocks, they don't want to sell it, even though stock may have gone up a lot,
Mm.
and maybe the earnings estimates have gone up a little, or there might be some earnings growth and that sort of thing. But
Mm.
sometimes when a stock goes up a lot, it doesn't really match the fundamentals. So that
Mhm.
means you want to reduce the position, you want to reduce your risk at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But they want to pick the very top of the market before they get out.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like my borrowers who don't want to buy a house because they believe rates are coming down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really what it feels like.
Yeah. And that's probably, that's one of the bigger issues that I guess you both face in kind of dealing with clients or trying to help people just maximize their investment as a whole.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I completely understand what you're saying with people trying to get top dollar or trying to, time the market. I run into it all the time with people looking to buy a home. Home values are going to come down. Rates are going to go down. I'm going to wait. And it just doesn't no good. They're just wasting money.
Mm-hmm. And another thing you mentioned in the book is the lack of diversification, which, funny enough, there's probably some cross-blend there as well, because I know John on the show as well talks about getting investment properties, and not just putting all your eggs in one basket. So I guess have you speak to that as well.
Right. I gave an example at the Sands Club, a while back. There were two sisters that came into my office, so they weren't clients, but they were prospective clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so their father had a large, fairly large portfolio.
Mhm.
I think it was close to $700,000, and about 95% of it was in Wachovia Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So this was prior to the financial crisis in 0809.
Mm-hmm.
And I happen to be familiar with Wachovia Bank because they were making what they call pick-up payment loans.
Mm.
So some of the loans were not amortizing down in terms of the principal value. I think some of them actually increased. They had negative amortization,
Mm-hmm.
and so they didn't want to sell the stock, and he'd held it for about 20 or 30 years,
Mm.
and because they didn't want to pay capital gains tax on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not end well for them because Wells Fargo bought out Wachovia at a bargain price.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, I had Wachovia when I was in the military, so yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
But so for people who want to get your services or sit down with you for a free consultation, how can they get a hold of you, Bob?
They can look at my website, sabinoim.com.
Okay.
So
SabinoIM.com, and a good phone number they can get a hold of you at?
520-233-7613. And
Awesome.
yeah, my contact information is on the website.
Well, that's Bob Call with Sabino Investment Management. Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Thank you.
It's the Common Good Radio Show brought to you by Veteran Rescue Mission. I'm Pastor John McClain here with John Spur with Inspired Life Mortgage. Thank you, brother, for joining me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll catch you all next week. You guys take care, brush your teeth, wash behind your ears, and eat your vegetables. God bless.